This is Bryan Johnson, the tycoon who sold Venmo for $800 million. He spent $2 million of those dollars to reverse his biological age by 5 years. And he invited my friend Leon and I to spend the afternoon with him. Most people think he's crazy and weird, but he's smashing world records and he's got the stats to back it up. And he cracked the code on turning back the sands of time. And I discovered the most important aspects of his insane routine that anyone can do, no matter what their resources are, and without living like a total monk.
Basically, the question we were trying to ask scientifically was, in the early 21st century, the time we're living, if you just basically made my body a controlled experiment and said, we're going to attach this body to the rigors of all the scientific evidence available to us, what could you do with the body? How much could you slow the speed of aging? How much could you reverse aging by implementing all the best evidence out there? I've spent millions of dollars doing the first step of measuring everything we can. So we use MRI, ultrasound, DNA methylation, microbiome, all the biofluids, blood, saliva, stool, fitness tests, sleep, eyes, ears, everything we can measure. And we look at the evidence and we say, what does the evidence say to do, to how to achieve optimal health? And they implement it. And my only responsibility is to be perfect.
So this is how it all started. He was learning how to fly a plane and he put it on autopilot, and he noticed that when the plane was on autopilot, it would make these micro corrections and it would fly the plane way better than he ever could. That's when the light bulb moment happened and he realized, what if I could do that for my body? What if I put as much resources as possible into creating a system that removes human error and let the data make the decisions for him? Bryan has this concept that he describes as firing 7 p.m. Bryan. What that means is there's these two versions of ourselves. There's the version of ourselves that is basically self-destructive, doing all the things we know that we're not supposed to be doing, that we shouldn't be doing. And then there's the actualized, fully realized version of ourselves, the one who's following through on everything that we know is good for us. And the difference between these two people is one person is making the decisions for the short term, and the other person is making decisions for the long term. And there's this constant tug of war, this constant battle within us between these two separate parts of ourselves. But the real question I keep asking myself is, why do we do the things that we know aren't good for us?
Even if somebody knows something's bad for them, it's still sometimes impossible to stop. We have a society that celebrates addiction. When you guys came here today, you probably passed 30 fast food restaurants. Then you can be on your phone, addicted to your algorithms. You've got alcohol opportunities, porn, every food that you eat that is addictive in nature. And then if you don't participate in that, people are like, you're weird. And they say, like, if you can't live life like that, it's not worth living. Like, you must be miserable, is the assumption.
So Bryan takes 100+ supplements every single day. He eats a vegan diet and he's calorically restricted. He works out for an hour a day and he's in bed at the same time every single night, and he never misses. He has an at-home medical lab where he experiments on himself with all different types of technology and also measures everything with a team of 30 doctors. Let's be honest, this is not realistic for almost anyone on the planet other than this guy. So what can we do? That's where Bryan's genius is. So not only has Bryan documented everything that he's doing, but he's synthesized it for us to understand, and he's broken it out into a framework. And that framework is to test and measure, then to take rigorous science-backed evidence to build a protocol based on what the data says. Once you start to apply the protocol, then you're going to start seeing changes in your body. You're going to retest and you're going to repeat that cycle over and over and over again so you can learn exactly what your body needs and in what dose.
So if we ask the question, what is our technology going to be like in 20 years? We all would say better. We don't know how, but like we can see this general trajectory. If you pose the question about what do we think about ourselves in 20 years, what do we think? It's like, well, I'm kind of on this curve of I mature to a certain age and I'm on this inevitable decline and then I die. We don't think of humans as on an improvement curve. We see it on a natural cycle. With Blueprint, I've basically tethered myself to the scientific and technological improvement curve of society. And I said, if my body is the experimental setting, I'm in a closed loop algorithm, I can imagine myself improving at the speed of science and technology. So I can have the same aspirations of myself as I can for my technology. How will I be different? I don't know, but really different, and maybe even a lot better. You can do this on $1,500 a month. That's all your food. So it's actually doable. But the thing that I've spent the most money on is measuring myself. And that's expensive. So doing whole body MRI on a regular basis, doing whole body ultrasound, every possible test. When I'm looking at my body's speed of aging, we can then say, what's changing my speed of aging? So you could look at cholesterol and triglycerides and like individual variables, but they don't tell you a whole body story. When you look at how the whole body is aging, you're getting a snapshot, like one number for the whole body. How am I doing? So I'd say that's really where we try to focus, is like the power laws of what's really changing the gears in terms.
After spending all this time experimenting and measuring myself, I've learned that there are 4 fundamental test and measurement devices that you can use, that anyone can use, to get a clear snapshot of what's going on inside of their body so that they can start to optimize and build their own protocol. Number 1 is going to be a CGM, a continuous glucose monitor that will track your blood sugar. That will give you an indication of what's happening with your metabolic health. The tracker that I would recommend is the Levels CGM. There is a link in the description down below, and I will be making a video about that in the future. The second is going to be some type of sleep or fitness tracker. That's going to be an Oura Ring or a Whoop or an Apple Watch, something that's going to measure not only your sleep, but also your heart rate variability and your resting heart rate. This is going to give you a good indication of the health of your nervous system, the health of your heart through the resting heart rate, and the quality of your recovery and sleep. The next test you can get is a comprehensive hormone panel. And the last but not least is the GI map, which is a stool test that will give you an indication of what's going on with your gut health. That's basically the poor man's version of the first pillar of Bryan Johnson's protocol. Get some data. A lot of people, they look at Bryan's life and what he's doing and they say, I could never do that. I would never want to be like that. I just want to have fun. I'd rather die early and be able to enjoy my life than do what he's doing, or even do 10% of what he's doing. Is Bryan extreme? Absolutely. But that's not the point. He's trying to push the scientific literature to the forefront and move the conversation forward as far as he can by being the human guinea pig. Because health and wellness is like religion. Everyone thinks they know the right way to do it, that they have the answer. And the only thing that matters at the end of the day is results. He's just trying to bring the data to the table. So what are the most impactful things that he's learned on this 2-year journey of reversing his aging? What he told me was absolutely shocking.
People want to do things in their life that improve their life. And so they have good intentions. Sometimes they'll focus on the things they have control over. Like they want to buy a supplement, and then they want to say NR versus NMN, or they'll focus on the melatonin thing. But really, it's the bigger issue that counts. Is can they get their sleep to be right size? Like, can they actually get high quality? Can they avoid eating a bag of Doritos? Can they avoid eating a quart of ice cream? Can they avoid the excessive self-destruction? Like, it's like the big things in life are the biggest power laws. The other things are just higher level stuff that will come later in time.
This was shocking to me because after I spent all this time, money, and energy myself, I came to the same conclusion that sleep really was the #1 thing to focus on and to optimize. And that's exactly why I built my course, The Sleep Advantage, and why I put together a new free private training for entrepreneurs and high performers to teach them exactly what I learned and to demystify some of the biggest misconceptions about sleep. There's a link to the training in the description if you want to go check it out. But this is also so liberating at the same time because there's 4 major pillars that he says, if you can get this right, you'll be off to the races. Number 1 is to remove the things that are toxic. That's the alcohol, that's the drugs, that's the overstimulation, that's the toxins in your environment, just to get that stuff out. Number 2, sleep. Get that right. Number 3, nutrition. Figure out what your body needs, what's right for you. Eat the highest quality that you can. And number 4, exercise. You know, going into this, I really thought I was going to reveal some secret that was going to blow everyone away, some new technology or prescription or something that was going to extend the human life in a really meaningful and powerful way. And I did, but just not in the way that I thought.
If I had to put my finger on one thing, it would be that we identified that we are self-destruction machines. Individually, collectively, we treat the planet the same way we treat our bodies, in this hopelessly self-destructive way, and we're creating technology that is mirroring us. I shifted control from my brain to my body. Just said, all right, organs, you do your thing, I'll watch. But now it's produced near perfect health for me. But I had to empower a different system and eliminate my mind through the self-destructive system. So it's very counterintuitive when we think about climate change or our lives. We think our brain is the #1 problem-solving tool. For me, it was my biggest nemesis. It was the problem I had to solve for. And so if you say, how do you fix climate change? It's like pointing at itself, and that's just so counterintuitive for us to do.
The thing that's going to make the biggest difference is you winning the war within yourself. When it's time to make a choice, you do what's best for you in the long term, not what satisfies your immediate gratification. And if we can set up systems to make it easier to remove that choice from our life, then that makes our lives much, much easier. Walking away from this experience, one of the most liberating things that I learned with my time with Bryan is that being healthy really does come down to mastering the basics, and I think that gives all of us hope. If we can just get in the habit of measuring and tracking what's going on in our body and making adjustments as we go, then if we focus on the fundamentals, we can live for much longer and we can be much healthier. So in the spirit of this video, I want to challenge Bryan Johnson to a sleep competition. Bryan, if you're up for it, we can track everything on the Whoop and we can do it live so other people can participate as well. So if you're not subscribed already, go ahead and do that and ring the bell so you get notified when we release a follow-up video right here if, Bryan, you are up for the challenge.